Welcome to the shed. So today in the shed, I have someone very in tune with who they are and what experiences they wish to have in an ever-changing reality we find our bodies in. Some are born more awake than others, and Stephanie says she was born into an experience with the veil slightly lifted, specializing in Kundalini energy work and retreats such as the Temple of Divinity, alongside giving great information to those who are willing to listen. So welcome to the shed. After our technical problems, we are here.
We made it. Thank you, Ryan, for having me. It's been a little journey getting here, but I'm so happy to share the space with you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, it happens at the right time, I think, really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't ready to listen or take it.
No, and I think I wasn't ready either. I needed to purge a little bit more before we met. Yeah.
So this is a little thing I do with everyone that comes on the show at the beginning of the podcast, and it's a bit of a meditation basically through the woods. And what I'll do is, you've probably done something like this before. I think you're very educated in the forms of meditation, but it's a bit of fun. I don't know if we tried it, but I don't know if you can hear that. Like, how much can you hear that? Is it very, very
more of it now?
Yeah? All right, we're in the woods. So basically what I'm going to do is lead you through the woods, and I'll ask you very direct questions. If you want to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. And then I'll ask you sort of a direct question, and then if you can say the answer, and then at the end, I'll sort of lead you through what these answers mean. Okay. So you're walking through the woods, and the leaves are coming down, and lights going through the trees, and you look to the right of you, and you're walking with someone. Who is this person?
My higher self.
And as you're walking with your higher self, there is an animal in the distance. What animal is it?
An elephant.
Okay. And what's the interaction you have with this elephant?
It's very majestic, very playful. It's very serene, gentle experience. There's a lot of power.
So you're looking after each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you're going to go walk deeper into the woods now. And there comes sort of a clearing, and before you is your dream house. Could you describe the size of it?
My dream house. I don't know the size. I mean, it's a decent size. I'm just noticing a lot of windows, a lot of light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there a fence?
No.
No. And then you're going to walk into the house and you see the dining table. Could you describe what you see on the dining table and around the dining table?
See a large dining room table. Flowers is what comes to mind.
Yeah.
A beautiful arrangement of flowers, yes.
And then anything else?
Mm-mm.
Okay, and then you're going to walk out of the house, and on the floor you see a cup. Can you describe what the cup's made of?
What is it made of?
Yeah. Could be any material, like metal.
Like copper.
Copper.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fancy cup. So then you're going to look at the cup, but what do you do with the cup? Do you pick it up, or?
Yeah, I can pick it up.
Yeah? Okay, and then, so you're going to come to the end of the property now, and there's a body of water. Could you describe what type of body of water it is?
It's like a beautiful lagoon. Beautiful, like electric blue, kind of like a prism, like almost like the opal kind of color.
Okay.
Like it has a lot of, it's very reflective.
Yeah.
Like rainbow frequencies.
Is it quite big? Is it a lake? Is it?
Yeah, you can say it's like a lake.
Yeah. Okay, and how do you cross this body of water?
How do I cross it?
Yeah.
Can I swim?
Yeah, you can do whatever you like. It's your woods.
Uh, yeah, swim. I can
So,
actually walk. Maybe I can glide across it.
yeah, cool. All right, that's it. You've accomplished the woods. I love it. It's a good little starter. So I'll kind of lead you
Yeah.
through what sort of the questions lead to. You know, you can take it how you want, but I think they're quite good. And everyone I've done this with, it's really interesting because of what they come up with. Everyone's different. It's mad. So the person you're walking with is the most important person in your life. So your higher self. I think that's pretty good. Sometimes I've had a guy just say, a man in a black robe. I was like, I don't know what's going on with you, bro.
Wow.
So the size of the animal is representative of your perception of the size of your problems. So an elephant is pretty big. So, but it's a majestic elephant. So I think that's also quite cool.
Deal with my problems with magic.
Yeah, exactly. The severity of the interaction with the animal is representative of how you deal with your problems. So that's where I think it's great because, you know, an elephant to most people would be a huge amount of problems. But then obviously if you attack those problems with the same, you know, initiative or the same size as the elephant, then you're in good spirits to challenge what you're doing right now, if you agree. And
I
then
love that. Yeah.
and then
And that
the
makes sense.
yeah. It's funny what comes up and people are like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, it's actually that's interesting that I picked an elephant. I mean, I love that they're so majestic, but I am currently dealing with something that feels
Big.
very large. Yes. So
Cool. But then you'll challenge it in the right way, it seems. The size of your dream house is representative of the size of your ambition to resolve your problems. So you said a medium-sized house. I think this one is also a little bit around ego. People don't want to say too much of a big house, and also you're in the woods, so it's like you kind of want to think, well, it's not going to be a gated mansion. You know what I mean? Like, how are we going to get it all there? But yeah, that's the size of your problems. But you did say a house with a lot of light. You know?
yes. Yeah, I saw like just like almost like a glass house.
Yeah.
Like a lot of windows. Yeah.
I've always wanted to build like a forest house that's kind of like completely open, like a kind of oval, and just glass all the way around the front. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love being in nature or in like the water and just having a house that has like so many windows that wherever you walk, you're just like
Glass
intermingled
ceiling.
with it. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Whether you had a fence or not is whether you have an open personality. So you had no fence, so that's great. It's people always welcome at all times. The present of a fence indicates a closed personality. Sometimes I've had people I had a person on the other day and they said it's like a big gated fence around the house, but once you're in, it's a party. And then some people that have like a little gate, they let people in, you know. If you answered did not include food, people, or flowers, you're generally unhappy about the table. So you said flowers straight away, so you're generally happy. I think you're generally happy. Yeah. And the durability of the material of the cup is your representation or representative of how you perceive your durability of the relationship with the person in number one. So that's your higher self. So copper's pretty strong. You know, it's quite a fancy cup as well. That's a bit like hipster in England. And then what you do with the cup is the attitude towards the person number one. So that's, again, your higher self. So, you know, you pick it up, you walk along with it. And then the body of water is your desire for love. So that was a lake. So that's, you know, and it's very majestic at the same time. So I think that's good. And then swimming through it means like you're with it, you know, you absorb it. You know, some people like to get on a boat and cruise through it quickly, or I've had loads.
That is so cool. I
Yeah.
love this.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's the first Zoom one I've done, so thank you for allowing me to test that out. I'm glad
Yes.
we had
I'm so
sound for it.
happy. Yes, exactly. No, that's really beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's, these personality kind of sort of tests, they're good if in the right frame. And there's something you can only do it once because now you know the answers.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work again.
Yeah, no. No, and it's great because it's also very validating to things in my life, like the fact that I said my higher self. I mean, it's very true. I've given up so much what I feel like in the 3D
Yeah.
to follow this path of my higher self, and it's been a huge desire since I was a child to connect, embody. And so yeah, that was cool that you brought that back, that's what it meant, because it does feel like, to me, that is my number one priority. And sometimes it feels hard because it doesn't match up to our human experience when we're giving up other things that I don't know, are not quote unquote what society would say
Good.
when you're following this path.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've always said that the good is represented as the bad, and the bad is represented as the good in society. The way it's shown to you a
Yeah.
lot of the time.
Yeah,
So
it's like everything's inverted.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm.
Opposite. Someone said that
Mm-hmm.
to me once. He said, "Everything you think the opposite." It's been
Oh, I like
flipped.
that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. So, from a young age, if we go back in time,
Mm.
I saw in your bio that you said, from a young age that the veil's slightly been lifted, and that you kind of woke, you were kind of into a woke state from a young age. Can you tell me a bit about that and like when your journey started?
Yeah, I would say since I was a little girl, I always just remember feeling just very different. I knew immediately, like I would say when I maybe like 2, 3, a lot of the memories I have is from when I'm like 5 years old, but I just remember feeling very disconnected and alienated from here. Like I knew I wasn't from here, and I had a very difficult time adjusting because I was extremely sensitive, and I felt a lot of the pain in the world. So it was just a lot to take in, and I felt like I understood things at that age that quote unquote a child shouldn't understand, like the way I was able to perceive or understand human interactions. And I just didn't know at the time. I was very clairsentient and claircognizant. So I could feel other people's emotions. I would get sick. I used to have like these really bad stomach aches that would cause a ton of pain. My mom would take me to the hospital. They did a bunch of tests on me, could never find anything. And now that I understand a little bit more of energy, was that like a lot of the solar plexus, we, as children, we're all constantly receiving information, and all of our emotions gets kind of stored there. And then as I got older, I just realized that I just knew things. I would get things in my dreams. My mother used to tell me that I used to have all these like religious figures in my nightstand, and like I couldn't sleep without them. And she would try to put them away because she wanted to have everything orderly. And I'd be like, no, leave them there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was very connected with angels for a long time, all the way to like probably like my 20s. I had a huge connection with angels, and I would always talk to them. And yeah, just growing up, I spent more time with the dots than I did with children. Like my connections with the dots were easier.
Yeah.
And
I was a bit similar. Always searching for
yeah,
older
really.
people in a sense, well, conversation wise, yeah. I find
Hmm.
older years in school or things like that. How was you communicating with angels then? Was that through your dreams? Was that through meditation or telepathy or?
Both. Well, I would get a lot of stuff in my dreams, and sometimes like I knew a lot of things. Sometimes with friends, like I would just speak like if I'm speaking normally, but not knowing that I'm like predicting or tapping into energy, and I would be able to predict things that later would come to passing. And with my angels, what would happen is that I felt very alone for a long time. So around people and environments, I just felt completely out of place. So I would spend a lot of time praying and talking. And so I did a lot of first at the beginning, a lot of religious searching because I grew up Catholic, and I did the whole like first communion kind of thing. And after going to church, I think like at 11, I told my mom, I was like, this isn't for me. I remember sitting in front of a priest, and I was supposed to like confess all my sins, and I'm there and I'm like, today I cursed, and I did it to my mom, and I'm like just And then I just had a moment as I was like speaking to the priest, and I'm like, wait, what am I doing here? I was
Mm,
like, I speak to God every day, and this person sitting in front of me is just as fallible, if not more than me. And who is he to tell me to like absolve me of my quote unquote sins? And it was like this just profound moment where I just realized like religion wasn't for me. And I just told my mom, I'm not going to church anymore. And yeah, a lot of my connection with my angels was just me speaking in my room, a lot of journaling. For me, journaling was where like my higher self, where my angels would speak to me. And I would just have like a lot of telepathy. So a lot of my stuff would come in as just like a thought that would drop in, but
yeah.
it wasn't like my thought. And so many things would save me, whether I was driving and someone was going to take a stop sign, I would hear like the thought like someone's going to take a stop sign and little silly things like that. But that's what made me feel not alone. So I really enjoyed spending a lot of time by myself because it was in those moments that I would connect and I would find like feathers in my room and I would always have all these like synchronicities. So I've always been in this search for something more because I just felt like something was missing
Mm.
within me.
So, why am I doing a paid partnership with BetterHelp? Well, I'll tell you why. Because over the course of 3 months, I've had therapy. And I was assigned with the most amazing therapist who's taught me how to reconnect with those individual parts that have been neglected over the years. I've had addictions, I've struggled to be sober, but nothing could have been as easy as signing up to BetterHelp. It starts with a simple questionnaire, and then you're matched with a personalised therapist. You can schedule in your sessions, and you can even direct message anytime. You can meet your therapist, and you can even write in your journal and have group sessions. How amazing is that? Just as amazing as this ancient pool. So if you're ready to dip into something that might be uncomfortable, sign up to BetterHelp, because it'll be worth it.
How do you differentiate the thought process? So, that's something that I think people definitely in England really are waking up to in a sense, after COVID and lockdowns, things like that. People realize, oh, hang on a minute, like there's room for me to think now. The kind of rat race and everything has slowed down a second. How do you differentiate at that age a thought that is coming from maybe a download or something that's an angel or from your own thought process yourself? Is it a feeling?
It's more like a knowing.
Yeah.
Like claircognizant is just like a knowing. I think during that time, there wasn't so much talk about, spirituality and thoughts and stuff. So it wasn't even trying to differentiate. It was just like a knowing. Like I would just get
Trust
this.
instinct.
Yeah, it was just a trust instinct, and it's like a different kind of energy, and you just know it, and you don't know how you know it, but you do. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I like that. I mean, it's hard to. I think the mind likes to like go for desires, and you have to understand like, okay, like it's just constantly wanting dopamine, like,
Yeah,
and save
absolutely. I
me. I
mean,
want to be safe. I want to be safe.
yes. Yes, yes. Oh, trust me, I've been through that whole journey. Save
Yeah,
me. Let me find the one. If I could only find the one to
yeah,
save
yeah.
me. No, but I think now, like, I've been through so many different shifts and changes. So after also getting completely locked in my mind and having like this journey that I'm currently on of like coming back to reconnection, because I went through a period of like losing that connection. So I was really connected for what I would say a good majority of my life.
Mm,
And then I went through a period where I got completely disconnected. So the journey that I'm still currently on of now knowing what it feels like to have to get reconnected
yeah.
has been very interesting. And then getting locked in the mind, like it's insane because the mind is an insane asylum, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you can battle with it. You know what I mean? That's how I feel sometimes. It is a battle. It is like, okay, to discipline and things like that, the simplicities of just controlling your body and your mind can be really technical. And knowing how to differentiate what the mind wants or the body wants and what you want, what a higher mind wants, like it's like 5 conversations going on. you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think the key, honestly, like that I'm relearning as I'm remembering, because it's almost like I decided to go offline in the middle of my like 30s. Um, is
Not a bad thing. See ya.
See, it's just been really hard. I'm like, it's like having like a mid awakening.
Yeah.
But it's connecting back to the heart and coming back to that playful and joyful energy. If we can't tap into joy and play, it's going to be really hard to be connected to the heart. And I feel that when we're connected to our heart, that's really where the higher mind is. And the more we can drop in here, then the more that we quiet this, right? But a lot of us just live here. So when we're in our minds, we're just disconnected from our body. We're disconnected from our higher self, because our higher self doesn't speak through our mind. It really connects to the heart, and it's a feeling, and it's being able to trust yourself, and to really tune into those like subtle impulses, and those like at the beginning, it's like your intuition is like it's like a muscle. We have to work it out. So we have to like listen, and every time that you do listen and you take action on it, it gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah. And if you really tune into the body, you feel your heart tingle. Because that's what I get sometimes. If someone's talking and I'm like, yeah, that's true. Because I can feel it, you know what I mean? Because it's like it's listening. It's like, okay, I know what's going on.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. I actually spoke to a guy a year or so ago, very interesting guy, on a pod, and he said he'd done a meditation where he actually went into his heart and he didn't have a clue what he was doing, and he nearly like died or passed out. He said he was kind of in there, and it was like he felt that was where the body's controlled, and he was just like, right, I can't deal with this, I'm out.
Wow.
And that was like episode 3, so I was like, well, this is going to be quite a journey.
That's profound. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the heart is I feel like for so many of us, it's such a scary place to be in, because the world has ensured that we don't reside in the heart. It's done everything, right? Like I feel like this entire reality is devoid of love on purpose, to keep us away from that, because this is, where everything is. It's in our heart space. But there's so much hurt, there's so much pain, and it's also connected, I believe, to our sensitivity, our ability to feel. Just like you said, like you can feel something, so you get a tingle in your heart. Like our body is like this beautiful harmonic like technology that is constantly perceiving information, and if we can tune in and then resensitize, we can start to feel and get information. But the thing is, because we've been offline for so long and we've been so desensitized, that when you start to open up, it can be very overwhelming to feel. And then we don't have the proper tools to know how to process these energies, and these emotions can sometimes just feel like,
too
like
much.
you're gonna die.
Like a panic attack.
Yes, literally.
I can't handle
Absolutely.
this. No, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, what I'm doing at the minute is quite fast paced, and it's, jump from conversations, and it's, but it's very in sync. I can see the synchronicity. It's crazy with it. But yeah, and it's Bashar said something that was really, really good. He said that joy and fear is the same emotion. It feels exactly the same. It's just how you deal with it. And that I think is quite true, because it's like you can get nervous, and some people might get nervous and not do the something that's making them nervous because of the feeling. It's like, no, that's just your body going, yo, we're getting ready. Like,
Yes.
we got to do this, So
Yeah.
after that, you went into, I saw that you went traveling for quite a long period of time. So can you lead me through that? Where was like the most enlightening place that you went, and what led you to sort of the energy work?
Yeah. So in my late 20s, I just had this desire. I was living in Atlanta. I was working for Grey Goose at the time, and I just had this desire to just be free and to connect with people and to travel. So I remember like I used to spend a lot of time alone in like my office and my spiritual room, and I just got this like huge like download, and it was like you need to go travel. You need to sell everything and travel. And I was like, okay. So I started taking all the action steps, but it took me actually I delayed it by a year, because maybe a little less, but because I started to get a little bit of fear, and then I started to get distracted and trying to like go into relationships, just to like the fear of like going traveling and what that would be like. But I finally did it. So I decided to sell everything, and I used my backpacking experience. This was back in like 2014. So it wasn't like now it's so common. You hear everybody's like backpacking. But at the time it wasn't as common. So I decided to go solo. I took a one-way ticket to Prague. And I took $10,000. I sold everything and I took
Yeah.
10,000. And I was like, okay, I had been, I think, to Europe once. I went to Italy with like my mother, but I've never traveled alone to that extent.
Eyes
and
wide open.
eyes wide open. And I used it. I called it traveling within. So I said, I'm going to use this experience to strengthen my intuition and to allow my intuition to guide me. And that's what I did. So when I went to travel, like I went to Prague first because at the time I used to have a YouTube channel and I had interviewed Teal Swan and she was doing like this event in Prague. So I was like, okay, I'll start there and then I'll figure out where I'm going to go. So my whole travel was basically, I had this necklace that someone gave me and it was like this kind of like, now that I realize it was kind of like almost like a pendulum. So I would use like my map and then use the pendulum to see like, okay, where am I going to go next? And I had a lot of synchronicities. It was one of my most, I would say, life-changing experiences to be able to travel by myself as a woman. And I got to meet so many different people. Each place I went was a different experience. And I pretty much, just allowed my intuition to take me. And everything I needed was always provided to me in the moment I needed it. One of my favorite countries was Croatia. I remember I was in Budapest and I had met a guy who was leaving and he was like, because you meet a lot of people when you're traveling, and they were like, oh, I think he was living in Romania, and he was like, oh, if you want to come out to Romania, like feel free to come. So, as a backpacker, you're always looking for opportunities, where you can kind of save money or if somebody wants to host you.
Try and fill your backpack more.
Yeah. But my spirit said no. And then I remember looking at the map and like my little necklace pendulum kept falling on Croatia. And I had never even heard of Croatia at this point. And I was like, okay. I was like, I guess I'm going to Croatia. So yeah, I spent about a month there and it was a beautiful experience. And even like my hostels, how I picked my hostels was all like intuition. So a lot of time I ended up in like small mom and pops. Like in Budapest, I think I ended up more in like a party one, but I had set the intention that in Budapest, I actually wanted to go out.
Yeah.
And I met people, and actually in Budapest, I met this beautiful woman named Matilda, who to this day we're in contact, and she ended up being a client of mine. And when we connected there, that was at the time I was so very connected to like angels. And then I was also talking a lot about aliens. So back in the day, this was just me. So it wasn't like I'm speaking to someone to convince them of anything. I'd just be sharing my experiences.
Yeah.
So we were walking through Budapest and I'm like talking, oh, my angel said this and this. And then I was talking about aliens. And I remember she called me years later, like once I was married and stuff, she had found me again. She's like, Stephanie. And when I met her, like she was a party girl. She was not connected at all. And she's like, that conversation that we had, she's like, by meeting you, she's like, it like put me on a trajectory where she had this massive spiritual awakening. And then she called me years later when I was completely disconnected offline. And she was like, I was like, who is this? She was like meditating for 2 hours, having all of these synchronicities. Her frequency was so high and my frequency was so low at that point that I'm like, why is she even talking to me?
Yeah, it's funny how you can still talk though. Sometimes you just don't even see each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With frequencies, I find it's like, sorry, go on anyway. What you was going to say?
No, it is true. Yeah, no, but I think at that time, my spirit was trying to reach me. So it was still trying to send certain people into my reality.
Yeah.
But no, so that's a little bit about my travels. I ended up traveling for about a year. And I spent some time in Bali. I spent like 6 months in Bali, some time in Thailand.
I like that you did it with such bravery with just a pendulum. Like, okay, I'm going to go there. Most people be like, that's nuts.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when I look back at it, I'm like, it was kind of crazy because I don't know if I don't know if it's still a thing, but do you remember couch surfing?
Yeah. Just ignore me. There you go. Hang on. My battery on my laptop just said it's got 7%. And I'm like, oh, it's not actually plugged in at the back. We've definitely got someone hating on us for technology today.
Yes, we do.
Right. Sorry. I'm here.
No, you're good. You're good. But yeah, so it was just things like that. Like I did mostly hostels and I did a couch surfing once. And then I was like, okay, I'm not. The couch surfing was a very interesting experience. But they're memories and I feel like it builds character and it really taught me a lot about
Who you
um
are.
who I am, that the world is a lot smaller than we think, and that the world is a lot safer. Like, right now things are really chaotic, but traveling like that, I felt very safe and I felt
Yeah.
very protected. And it has to do a lot with my connection and how I've always felt like that's why my higher self connection has been so important, because no matter what, even if I'm alone, I've always felt very, very guided.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that. I think it's so good if you can be in tune like that and sort of understand and not feel crazy. Because some people might just feel crazy if they're hearing certain voices or certain ways, or they can just think it's their own fault, or But if you can follow it and it works out the best for you, then I think that's there's no problem in any of it. So then, when did you sort of start the journey of Kundalini, and what can you explain to me and some of my listeners what Kundalini actually is? The serpent, the
Yes,
rise.
the rise. So I guess I'll start with how it happened. So I didn't really have a lot of awareness of Kundalini energy prior to it happening to me. So the journey started. I mentioned that, I've been really connected. And then there was a period of my life when I went offline. So right after my travels, towards the end of my travels, I had like an experience with a guy, and it was because I didn't listen to my intuition. So that experience already had set me up to like create all this shame that I had never experienced. And it just kind of put me on this trajectory where I started to accumulate a lot of shame, which then didn't allow me to show up online authentically. I got myself in this whole situation. And then after my travels, I come back to the States, and 7 months later, I meet at the time what would be my husband. I got engaged like within 4 months. Crazy, don't recommend
Quick.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
quick. But it's crazy because I had a vision. I remember before I went to go travel that I said I'm gonna go travel because when I get back from my travels, I feel like I'm gonna get married and I'm gonna have a kid. And I had always had a vision that when I got married, it was gonna be really fast. And some reason I remember seeing that I was gonna get offline. It was like little I guess precursors, premonitions.
Yeah.
So anyways, I meet him, we get engaged, we get married. I'm married for 5 years. It was not the best marriage for me. I went completely offline. It was a very controlling, narcissistic situation that my soul needed to have this experience. But I completely went offline and completely got out of my heart. And the most painful part of that was like I lost my connection, or momentarily what it appeared, from my higher self. So through that experience, like my mind, I've still been, this is a healing journey I've been on. Even my cognitive processing got really messed up. I felt like I couldn't process things the same. Like I just felt like I had a lot of trauma and a lot of stuff that was done to the technology, what I understand now is the technology of the body. And I remember towards the end, I started having these dreams with like a lot of serpents, like snakes. And I remember one day I was laying in bed and I just had this like drop in. And at the time I had stopped dreaming. Once I got married, like my dreaming kind of went offline. I stopped writing just because I was in a marriage where I was constantly being hovered over. Like he would look at everything. I had no privacy. So I just had no space to actually connect to myself. And I just remember being in bed and it was like this just drop in came in and said, if you don't leave your marriage, your life mission is going to pass you by. And I just remember laying there and I was already like super numbed out. I was like a walking zombie, to be honest. And I feel like I was even aging. I had no life force energy. I was just like in this survival mode of just like going with emotions. And on top of that, I had become a mom. So it was a very difficult time period.
A lot
But
of
I remember when
learning.
all learning for
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah,
mean, it's
yeah.
been my greatest because I'm here because of that experience. But at the time, it was very difficult. And I remember just hearing that and that I was like, okay, I don't know what my life mission is, but I know since I was a little girl that I came here for something. I always knew that I was here on a mission. I even remember when I was like really young that I was contemplating, why do I look the way that I look? And I just remember even just getting glimpsed that like I chose this avatar because of the way the world is, and because I was meant to speak one day and people will just be attracted. And then when I open my mouth, they will listen. And then once I got out of my marriage and I got divorced, like soon after I moved back to Florida, I started getting all these like inklings and desire, like to learn about sacred sexuality all of a sudden. And I'm like, okay. And then I came across this guy, his name is like Chris Bale, and he does like, somebody introduced me to him. He does like these energy orgasms for women. And I was like, is that a thing? I was like, what? And I remember connecting. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I remember seeing him, and something in me, it was like a remembrance. I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. So moving forward, I get invited, a girlfriend of mine who played a very significant role in pulling me out of my marriage. She was like, come to Mexico. I'm doing like this goddess circle thing. And I was like, okay. Like I was in a lot of fear at the time because I couldn't tap into my intuition. But when I finally got the yes, I was like, okay, I'm booking the flight. And 2 days before I'm supposed to fly out, I get a download that says, hey, there's going to be a mushroom ceremony in Mexico. Mind you, to this point, I haven't tried medicine. I'm already like in my 30s, so I haven't done anything. And
here we go.
I got this, here we go. And I got this clear thing. And right before Mexico, I think like a few weeks before, I started buying all these, like, not this one, but I had like a gold one, like serpent. I don't know why. I started buying all this serpent jewelry. And I'm not like in the real, like snakes in real life. But I had this like magnetism to it. So I had bought all this stuff, and I called her and I said, hey, is there like a ceremony happening? And she's like, actually, the shaman just called me, and the day that you land, there's a ceremony. So I was like, oh, okay. She's like, you want to do it? I was like, yeah, spirit just told me I have to do it. So this was the beginning of like this awakening, like new awakening. And I remember I set my intention, because what I've learned is like, you know, when you do medicine, it's very important for you to set your intention. The intention's everything. So I went in with like an open mind. I've heard people say, oh, they have all these visual experiences. So I didn't want to have all these expectations of what I thought it was supposed to be. So I just said, okay, I opened myself up. I released all expectations. And I remember I was just so genuine about this intention. And I was just like, I just want to meet the totality of who I am, you know, because I had been so disconnected for the last 5 years. And that journey, that medicine journey, was the beginning of like this introduction to the divine feminine energy. So as soon as I took the medicine, it just like hit me. I was like, oh, I've never lost control in my life. I'm a control freak.
Yeah, you have no control when they want to go.
No, and it was just showing me how like I've been controlling myself this whole time, and then it showed me how I've been so afraid of my power, of my own power. And then it showed me that it wasn't just me, that so many of us were afraid of our own power. And it also showed me like that this came from past lives of like being in your power and getting killed for it. And I just went on this beautiful journey. But I remember they took me up and they like just said, expand your vibration, like see how high your vibration is and how you can expand. And now that I've worked with this energy more, I understand that I have a very expansive, we all have a different energetic signature, but my energy, I can literally expand very far. It's almost like a supernova. And so I started expanding this energy. And I landed in my body, and I landed in my womb. And all of a sudden, the whole space shifted to like this dark, sensual jungle. And then all of a sudden, I just like, my friend who was in her own journey came to me. She's like, I see. She's like, do you know that you're like a snake right now? And then I'm like, and I'm feeling myself as a snake, as like this cobra energy. But she came and validated externally what I was experiencing. And I was like, okay, I'm not going crazy. And it was this magical experience. And I got to see like the darkness, that the void is where it's at, and that the dark isn't bad, and that this feminine energy has been so suppressed, and that there's so much power in our sexual energy, but it's been so distorted, and that our sexual energy is nothing what we think it is. Like we barely like have tapped into the iceberg of it. And so it was like this like super sensual, amazing. I felt so empowered. And that's kind of how it started. And after that journey, it was like my sexual energy was leaking. But at this time, I was still so disconnected from myself that I couldn't feel my own energy. But all of a sudden, like I was like magnetizing people, and people would be around me and they would start feeling really sexual. And I had like men and women wanting to be with me. It was like it was a very interesting time period. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I was a snake last week. Chill. I need to work things out first.
Yes. And I'm like getting all these propositions for like triples, and I'm like, what? Like I can't feel my own sexual. I can't even feel me.
Yeah.
So it was this really bizarre thing where I was leaking all this sexual energy, but I wasn't being like sexually active, nor was I having any like self pleasure. So I couldn't feel myself, but everybody else was like magnetized to this energy. But I now understand that I was leaking it, and this was the beginning of this Kundalini energy that was already starting to activate. And then it wasn't until May where I did this retreat. I got this download to put this Rise of the Wild Woman retreat. And that is when I had this like I went into massive vibrations. Like right before it, we were in a group, and one of the girls next to me was like, Stephanie, you're really hot. You're emitting a lot of heat. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. She's like, do you feel it? It's like fire. And right after that, we did a ceremony, and I just broke. Even before I even took the medicine, I already was activated, and I just went into these massive, massive vibrations. And I was by the fire, and I remember like the fire felt like home. And now like I love the fire. I can withstand a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Just like
It's hot in here.
it was beautiful. And then I fell into this journey, and I went in through this birth of like this serpentine dragon energy. And then I was shown that I've had sexual priestess, and then I've worked with sexual energy, and then I like transmuted from Mother Gaia. And it was like this. And then I started noticing that every time that the few times that I did ceremonies where there was people around, my sexual energy would like explode, and it would like affect everybody that was there. So even though people were on their own journey, all of a sudden they started to feel this very sexual energy themselves. So it was interesting. And I started to see how like I have like these tubes that I kind of can energetically plug into people.
A bit like Donnie Darko.
What is that? Who's that?
You see that behind me, that mask?
Oh, okay.
That's
I'm like,
Frank.
I'm not gonna pretend I know what it is.
It's a film. Basically, it's a bit similar to that. Like it's not going too off topic, but basically he has these it's about time, and it's about these tubes come out of him, and he can kind of see time in front. But that's what it just reminded me of. But yeah, it's like and Frank is kind of a person that he sees. He's a bit off his head.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, we'll bring it back to normality slightly.
Well, I'm sure some people know exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So you had these tubes that sort of can attach to other people in a way. You could see them.
Yeah, in a way, and then I could plug into them, and then I work with them, and I'm able to like send all this energy. So all of this was still pieces. I wasn't understanding a lot, and then in that retreat that I did, I remember. This was like, now that I look back, it was like already like what I'm doing now was starting to happen.
Yeah.
So I remember I was dancing by the fire, and before this experience, like maybe an hour before, I had this one girl that was at the retreat come up to me. And she's like, Stephanie, they just told me that all my chakras are blocked, and I don't know what to do. So she's coming to me for me to tell her something. But at this time, I'm like, well, I'm not a chakra expert. But little did I know that down the line, I'm going to be working with the chakra system. So she's coming to me to talk to me about her chakras being black. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. Let's like, we'll figure it out afterwards. So then I at night, I'm in by the fire, I'm in this kind of trance energy, and she comes in front of me. And she doesn't say anything. Later, she tells me that when she was standing in front of me, she had said in her mind, I surrender to you. And all of a sudden, while she was standing in front of me and I was like dancing, my hand just on its own just moved, and then it started like vibrating. And it just started doing what I do now. But at the time, it was like the first time it ever happened. And I started going like that. And I went all the way up. And when I got to her crown, like something shot out of her and boom, shot into me.
Mm.
And as soon as it shot into me, I was like, oh, and then like I couldn't, like nothing could come out. And then before I knew it, I just started crying and I had to run out of there. And then the shaman had to come after me. And I guess I had taken something from her. And she had to do this whole clearing on me. And I had to go by a tree. And I was feeling all these like different energies that were not mine. It was a very bizarre experience that I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. Do you think some avatars or some bodies then can be more of a vessel that takes on other people's energy and then, like yours, release it? They have, or do you think everyone has that ability?
I think that we all have that ability. Absolutely. I think that we're all capable of having that ability because our bodies is primed for it. However, I do believe that there's some souls here who have contracted specifically to take on that role on a larger scale, for this like awakening that's happening. But I've seen it because a lot of the women that I've worked with who've gone through activations with me are becoming transmuters themselves. And a lot of the things that I felt very alone with the burping, with the way that I transmute energy, I'm starting to see it happen in more and more people.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that we all have the capability to transmute. I personally know now that, I am going to explain about the Kundalini energy, that I've gotten more awareness about my journey and my mission. What I'm here to do is I do recognize and finally am accepting that I am this massive portal. I made an agreement in this life to kind of be this experiment and to use my body to portal in really high dimensional frequencies and make them available for others so that they can access them and activate, because the ascension process that we're in is one of the body, and our bodies need to catch up because these are beautiful, like I said, harmonic instruments, and there's so much that we can do. We need to activate our DNA again. So I'm going a little bit off, but that's part of the.
I see where you're going completely.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if we're going to talk about the Kundalini, you need to understand the body and what it's capable of, for sure. And I think that's the thing. It's like, I'm doing Kung Fu at the minute, Kung Fu and kickboxing. And it's like, even just to learn movements in Kung Fu, I'm like, Jesus Christ, my legs are not what I thought they was. And then the Shifu comes along and like does a 360 kick, and you're like, so even the simplicities of living in London and just understanding how much you don't really move your body, not just getting on a train or whatever. So, and then going into what you're talking about, it's so distant for me in a sense in some ways, but then I completely, my logical mind just says, well, yeah, that's obvious, that's kind of what a body could do. I think we don't really know what we're in a lot of the time, and that's what's a shame. And it takes a mad sort of process in order for people to sort of understand that, medicine, going hugging trees and understanding like what's going on and what entities have come into you and everything else. So yeah, I mean, what would be the best way to explain Kundalini from that?
Yeah, so what I've learned from Kundalini energy is, so when I had my Kundalini awakening, it's an energy that we all have available to us. It sits dormant in our root. So it's the energy that creates life. So when a baby's born, that is the energy that's used, is life consciousness that's used to create a life.
Yeah.
So, but once a child is formed, that energy kind of becomes dormant and it just kind of sits in our base. And because our environment isn't conducive to awakening that energy, in fact, they've been suppressing this energy. So the Kundalini, the word is like the most recognized because it comes from India, but really the Kundalini is our sexual energy. It's the divine feminine energy. It's like it's consciousness. It's your, and I call it now, it's like the Wi-Fi. It's the electricity that powers us up. So a lot of people, if you see, are very in like kind of zombie, very, not a lot of life force energy moving through their body. So, and I've been there.
Yeah,
So,
me too. So.
but this energy, once it starts to awaken, it's like it starts to power your system. It's a generator. And once it starts to activate, the process is that it needs to start to now travel through all of your centers. And how I'm understanding Kundalini from, because the energy teaches you, and the way I work with it is in a very futuristic way. So I know like a lot of the old gurus, they talk a lot about the Kundalini energy, but it's evolving. And what I've been shown is that the Kundalini energy is here to help us access our multidimensional self. So it starts to basically upgrade your body and restore it back to its natural state. So a lot of us, they say we have junk DNA. The Kundalini will start to activate your DNA, but first it needs to start to purify all your centers. So it needs to purify like your chakras. Each of our chakras are like memory disks. So we have so much trauma and energy stored there from this life and other lifetimes. So there's an entire purification process that can be pretty intense to go through. And it does take sometimes a lot of time for it to go through all of your chakras. For me, what I'm learning is, because this is part of my mission, is I do generate an obscene amount of energy. I'm able to like vibrate when I go into like real trance. It's almost like being plugged into a generator. And some people are like, how does your body not break?
Yeah.
So when the Kundalini starts to activate, it starts to really just bring us back more to ourselves. You start to realize like who you are at a core essence level, but in the midst of it, all of your distortions are going to be brought to the surface. Your belief systems are going to be completely shattered. So some people I've heard that have gone into psychosis, if they have like a spontaneous awakening and they have no idea what's happening to them, because there's so much that comes up.
So do you think that's similar to like what they would say like Christ consciousness? Or I think the Greeks used to call it the sacred oil, or the from the claustrum. I think it's because you have 33 vertebrae in your spine as well. I mean, what's the difference? What's the difference between male and female in sort of Kundalini energy? Is it the same, or is it a feminine energy that comes from both?
We both men and women have this feminine energy. It's the divine feminine that resides in both of us. So the Kundalini in its essence is divine feminine. It's the divine mother at the very top of the energy. It's the divine mother. So when we've been taught about God, you always think about male, right? Father. So there's the divine father, but there's a divine mother, because what is the energy of creation? It's feminine energy. It's the only energy that can actually create is feminine. Men are birthed from the feminine. You are always a woman before the chromosomes change and it decides that you're going to be a male.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the energy that's available in all of us, and it's your sexual energy. And this is the energy that we're all needing to tap into, that's been suppressed, because this is what connects us to the heart. It's that divine mother energy. It's like there's a huge mother wound in the collective. So when men also tap into this energy, it starts to purify you. Like we have so much sexual distortion with porn and all this stuff, that the energy is equal for both, and it's needed for both men and women to awaken this energy, because of what you said. It is Christ consciousness. Because what I've seen that the future is holding is that we will be embodied in Christ consciousness, but not just like a mental thing. It's literally like the bodies with this technology of the Kundalini, which is happening to so many people all over the world. As our body starts to upgrade and our body starts to release all these dense frequencies, the body will start to get prepared. And that's why we do have to strengthen it. So like you're saying, you're working out, like that's something now that my spirit's asking me. I'm needing to now bring in more exercise so I can actually anchor in these frequencies, because I channel them, but now my journey has recently just shifted to I'm actually going to embody these frequencies so I can become a portal, but I need to be able to sustain them in the body.
Yeah.
So the Kundalini, once it reaches the crown, what I've been shown is that it'll open up so that now your higher self can literally land in your body. And so then we'll have a bunch of gods and goddesses, ascended masters here on earth, which will make what like the new human species will become once again.
So is this like a vision you've had, or this is something how have you seen this to have a knowing?
Both. I've been shown visions, a knowing, and then also when I had this awakening, I also met, which I didn't believe, I had like thrown that concept out. I met like probably 3 months right after my Kundalini awakening, I met what is now I know as my twin flame. I do a lot of work with him. And I activated his Kundalini and he activated my light language, and he's a channeler. So once this happened and his Kundalini got activated here at my house, the Ceres Council, he came in. It was like a council of 12 from Ceres. And they would start to also give a lot of information. So it's been a combination of me having visions, knowing the Kundalini speaks to you. And then I've had a lot of galactic encounters since then, which this journey has been the last 2 years battling between I'm losing my fucking mind and I'm crazy and I'm delusional.
Stay with us, people. Your friend, does he channel 12 entities at a time then coming through?
It's like a council. It's like a consciousness, because high level beings, since they're telepathic, they plug into like a one mind. So when he channels, when the council comes in, it comes in as one stream, but it's like 12 different beings.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, because Bashar explained it in a way that it is, well, Darrell explained it in a way that their consciousness isn't linear like ours. It's not thinking on one. It's like AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
because they operate, the frequency is so much faster.
Yeah, I just lost part of my mushroom. It fell. It's fine. Vibrations, y'all. No, it's an amazing journey. I love that you mentioned twin flame as well. What's your thoughts on twin flame? Is that, I mean, how I look at it as well, looking at souls, from what I've seen, and higher minds, it's that there may be one sort of higher mind that's split into two sort of bodies in a way. Is that how you see a twin flame? You're very much looking at a mirror and it's showing you your thoughts and, the other way round for you to learn. I've definitely been with a twin flame.
Yeah.
I know a lot about me now.
Yeah, I would look at it like that. Like, I don't consider myself an expert, even though I've been shown that something that later down the line we will be doing and bringing a lot of twin flames together, because this is part of the journey, and not romantically speaking, as a lot of people
always
think.
Like that, yeah.
It's not always like that. I mean, there could be, but there's this over romanticization, because I do believe there's a lot of matrix infiltration within the spiritual community. Because there's a lot of, we can talk about that later, but there's like a lot of fallen angelic consciousness that distorts information. But the purpose of a twin flame is mostly for the spiritual union, to help you accelerate your spiritual growth exponentially. So you basically share the same oversoul, and it is like a mirror of you energetically. So I used to believe in that when I was younger, and I had the whole twin flame concept, but I think it was a little distorted. And before my awakening, I had really thrown that concept away. I didn't believe in it anymore. And right after my Kundalini awakening, I found this coach who deals a lot with like goddesses, and she's just a really great teacher. And I was trying to understand what was happening to me, because I still didn't. Like at the beginning, it was a lot. My body was going into vibrations. I was having all these metaphysical experiences. So I needed some guidance. And I found this coach, and I was telling her what was happening. And she's like, you have tapped into the crack of the universe, is what she calls it. She's like, so be prepared, because people will love you, people will hate you. Like there will be so much projection because of this energy. And then also, she literally says it's like the crack of the universe. So she reads the Akashic records. So while I was working with her, I worked with her only for like 2 months. In one of my Akashic record readings, as she was clearing out a past life, she said, oh, you're going to be meeting your twin flame. I was like, okay, whatever. Honestly, I didn't even hang on to that, because I didn't really believe in it. And then shortly after, I was guided. I was having these visions of these temples that I was shown that I was going to do, and just bits and pieces. So I'm kind of following the breadcrumbs here. And I had two clients, and they said, okay, you're going to do a temple with these two clients that you're working with, and whatever. There was a lot of synchronicities, and I had been shown that I was going to be at the beach. Anyways, so I ended up doing this, like my first temple, which I have no idea what the temple was going to be. And we end up doing like a mini ceremony. And in that is when I was shown that I channel through my body. And I was shown that the people will come from all over, the women will come. And that was the first time I had like this really deep connection with what felt like the divine mother energy that I had never really tuned into before. And they were showing me all these visions of what I'm here to do. And I remember it was like very overwhelming. I felt very unworthy. I was like on the ground, just kind of crying. And I'm like, why me? And that was the first time I heard purity of the heart. I had never used that word before. And she said, it's because of your purity of your heart. And she said, absolute power corrupts absolutely when your heart is impure. And she said, basically, purity of heart and my deep willingness to surrender. And then I just remember also saying, like, this seems like a very lonely path. And I don't feel I can do this alone. And in that moment, what I received was like, you're not doing this alone. And I was shown a male, but I couldn't see him, but it was basically saying like, you're going to be working with someone. And I felt like this kind of Christ-like energy. And I don't know, it was a lot, but in that moment, it was just like, whoa. And I remember even the two clients that I was with, she had no idea what I was going through. And she felt it. She talked about the Divine Mother. And she was like, the people will come from all over. And I was like, okay. And then I think right after that, maybe a few weeks later, I meet Sean, still not knowing he's my twin flame. Some girl heard me on Clubhouse one time, and she happened to tell Sean, who I guess she worked with, you need to meet this goddess. She's so amazing. Again, I think it was a walk-in that walked in to kind of connect us.
Yeah.
And he basically like had sent me a message and said, hey, I'm doing an event. There's like a spiritual event. I'm going to be doing some like chakra work and blah, blah, blah. So I had been here in Florida. I haven't gone out. And long story short, I ended up going to the event, and that's the first time we meet. And from the moment that we met, we just became inseparable, like our energies. And then what I started noticing is that he would give me information, and a lot of the information he would give me was the same information that my coach that did my Akashic records would be giving me.
Yeah.
And then I just started having visions that he was going to be in the temple. And before I knew it, it was this thing. And I didn't realize that we were twin flames until probably like 3 weeks later. We went to Mexico. I had just met him. Okay, random. And I'm like, you got to come to Mexico with me. I had this vision. I need to be. And I'm going to go film this video for my Temple of Divinity, thinking that it was about the video. But then before I was going, Spirit was like, it has nothing to do with the video. But when I went over there, we had massive activations with two other goddesses that are soul family that I met. And that's where my light language was activated. And on the way back, we had this remembrance, and we're like, holy shit. He was like, we're twin flames. And then I was like, because we're so similar, the way that we think, our energy signature, like we understand each other's way of thinking. Like we're like, people see us and they're like, literally, we're the same person and just a different body. So with twin flames, it's that, but you do have to have a level of mastery to be able to deal with.
Yeah, if you're not in sync.
Triggers.
Yeah, if you're not in sync, if you're not in the same sort of mind or same sort of position, then it's just actually a battle for both of you two to get there. And you may sync up later on, but yeah, I completely agree with that one.
Yeah, because it brings up all of your shit to the surface.
Yeah, 100%.
And you have to be able to have the tools to manage it. At the time when we connected like this, I was in the very beginning of my healing journey. So like I said, I was completely offline. I had so much shit I had to work through. But because he had done so much of the work, he was always a pillar of light. So he was able to hold the fork
Yeah.
and like not run away. And even when I was triggered, he was able to hold space for me, for all the nasty parts of me to come out, and then reflect. And then we used the tools to be able to work through things. And it just became this thing that we started noticing. We would constantly upgrade each other. And then also because of the Kundalini energy, a lot of gifts started coming online. So his channeling got stronger. And before we knew it, we were just constantly doing these activations on each other.
What kind of tools do you use when you mention tools?
Well, meditating and tools of basically
Like
coming back,
action?
like action, like being able to notice. So a lot of times, when I was in my triggers, he was teaching me a lot at the beginning by his being. So I learned like he was holding space for me
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
came from a marriage where there was no space for me to emote. So tools of, you know, being able to do that work of like having deep self-awareness and being able to hold space for another, being able to hold compassion. And even when I was being triggered and I was triggering him, you have to have enough emotional mastery to be able to see, to not take it personal. So he had those tools. I didn't have
Yeah,
those
yeah.
tools at the time. So I think the tools is being able to do the emotional work, to have that self-awareness and know how to manage your emotions and how to not get triggered and not take things personally and see that
Yeah.
it's
How to watch them like clouds pass rather than, you know, get rained on.
even though it can be fun sometimes
Yeah.
getting rained on, but yes,
It's a
agree.
storm. So you mentioned light language as well. Could you go and like explain that a little bit? What do you mean by light language to some of my listeners, and what you do with light language yourself?
Yes. So again, light language was something I didn't believe in.
Yeah.
I thought it was nonsense when I first heard it. And when I met Sean, we went to Mexico. He was working on me. He's like, "Your light language is gonna come online." I'm like, "Okay, sure." Um, so light language is basically it's the language of your soul. It's the language of our multidimensional self. So they're frequencies and harmonic tones, and each sound is a vibration that really penetrates our energetic field, and it kind of bypasses the logical mind. It kind of puts your mind into like a gamma state
Yeah, like
if
a
you're
channeling state,
receptive,
yeah.
like a channeling state. So these frequencies, they work on the technology of the body. They purge you out. They do so many things. They do activations, and it's just very healing because that's really, we're energetic beings primarily. So it's almost like remembering. And when you have this activation, before when you first hear it and you don't know about it, it can feel silly, especially if you're desensitized and you can't feel the energy. But once you start to feel into it, like I have people who don't have their light language activated, but they can feel the energies and their bodies will have reactions to it. And then even more, if your Kundalini is active and you work with light language, you can like, the body will react, because one of the things that the Kundalini does is that it reacts to frequency. So different musics affect my body different. Certain musics will immediately activate me and my Kundalini will start moving. Other frequencies, I can feel the distortion in my field and they feel
Yeah.
like
Stay
chalk, like
away from the
nails.
408, yo.
Yeah, it's like, ah!
Yeah.
So Kundalini is like another healing modality of the future. It's a galactic modality. So I feel like a lot of galactic healing modalities are going to be coming in. They're already coming in, but they're going to start to become more accepted. You
Yeah.
know, like Reiki before wasn't something that was like very
Yeah, I've done
accepted, and
Reiki. My
now,
nan's a Reiki master.
see?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but
I
like
mean,
15 years ago, Reiki wasn't like so
no.
accepted.
I mean, I lived in a house with my mum and my nan and my uncle, and then I think my stepdad moved in. It was quite a busy house when I was younger, and me and my uncle, he was about 30, going through his like 30s in a sense, living there, and then my nan was there, and she used to like we'd come downstairs, she'd be standing on her head. And like the rest of the family just be like, it's just hippie nan, she's just nuts. You know what I mean? She'd be like, well, you do it for 5 minutes a day and you'll feel great. But then
That is
I
awesome.
think, I think later in life I got more and more pushed towards a relationship with her. And she taught me a lot about, the spirit, and, Reiki is something she kind of like, she wouldn't like me to say this, but she kind of like dabbles in it, but doesn't want to go too deep. She's a bit scared of, I think, the full sort of understanding of what this is all doing. But she does say things like my hands tingle when I see someone that's in pain, or, she's quite in tune with that. And we did like a 3-day attunement as well, where she sort of taught me how to do it. And then we did it with my granddad. And
How did that go?
he literally, I love you, Rao, but your communication skills are pretty shit. He's great, but he'll even say it himself. He goes, I don't listen. I was like, you don't listen, do you? And he's like, no, I don't listen. And he basically, we used the pendulum, along his chakras, and basically as soon as you got to throat, it's just dead. It's so
Closed.
dead, completely closed. I think me and Manan could have stood, like, double teamed and stood there for ages. I think it's still going to be closed. You have to do outside work to do inside work, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's something, you can see people edging towards understanding, okay, alternative medicine isn't exactly alternative medicine. It's just we've been pushed into a sort of, take a tablet, here's a pharmaceutical industry that's giving you it. It's not going to heal the back, it's just going to stop that pain for a little while. So, and then this kind of conversation that we have gets pushed into the woo-woo. That's not, but until people start going and understanding this stuff and going through these motions and doing mushrooms and doing what you've done, then they can go, okay, no, that's not for me, or they can. I think we live in a world that loves to disprove before they can prove,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it usually always, what does it say? The truth goes through like 3 stages
Yeah.
before it gets accepted. How was the Reiki for you?
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. I haven't done it on many people. I feel like right now my energy has to be put into elevating knowledge through other people. I think I'm in a learning sort of process where I need to sort of wake up a lot more to a lot of other people's realities. And on the same time, a girl I saw the other weekend, she said to me, "You've literally kind of processed or done your whole development through 40 episodes." Like if I listen to episode 1 now, I'd be like, who's this guy? He's looking in the dark, like he has no idea what's going on right now. I'm still there, to be honest, but yeah, I think at the minute I can't give that kind of, I'm not in a position where that's what I'm meant to do right now, but I definitely want to work through these next sort of 10 years into, okay, what's my gift, what can I give back? I'm really interested in energy work and mycology, like how mushrooms and energy work can work together. And then I'm sure if I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people, then I'll definitely have the knowledge to pass on at the same time.
Yeah, you have both. And what about when you've received Reiki? How do you feel?
I love it. Well, sometimes she's made me feel sick a few times, which is good because it's purging in a way. I'm getting something out. Most of the time she has actually made me feel sick. Yeah. I've got to get rid of a lot of stuff. Cheers, Nan.
Oh my God, the purging. Yeah. I mean, these last 2 years, I was just like, is it like humanly possible to purge more? Like I've purged so much programs. Oh my God, there's been so much purging. But that's how much of the attack has been done on our body. I mean, we see it in the world with all the pedophilia that's coming out now.
Yeah.
That all is connected to the sexual energy, and like the food, the frequencies, the media, everything is designed on an energetic level to block. They're like always sending like frequencies to distort our body.
Yeah, the true self, I find. It's like London is a maze. You know what I mean? It's quite hard to work your way out of it, to a point where you end up building a shed at the end of your garden to create a podcast show on reality just to find the real one. That's kind of my process. It's like everyone knows that a 9 to 5 doesn't feel right. Everyone knows that, getting on the tube at 6 o'clock in the morning doesn't feel right. Lack of grass, lack of greenery. And I don't know what the weather's like there, but we just constantly have a grey cloud. It's not natural. I think it's put up there. I always said to my mum, what are they doing? Up there. There's something going on above it.
See, it's those we always know, and it's always like the conspiracy theorists get
Yeah.
crazy, and it's
Yeah.
like,
There's a good, you said about the truth comes in three stages. There's the difference between the truth and a conspiracy theorist is usually around 6 months. A conspiracy theory, you know. So it's true because
yeah,
a lot's coming out now, and it's like the conspiracy
yes,
side to the world is like, you know, you got. I think you said it a little while ago as well, like Andrew Tate. You know, even though what he's saying isn't resonating with a lot of people and how it's coming across, it needs to be spoken about at that frequency. Then you've got sort of Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan can be a bit of, you know, in the middle where he's like, he's a very good mediator between science, spirituality, the truth, what is and what isn't for a lot of people to take their own perception. So I think I love being in this time, you know, working
yeah.
through it.
Yeah, it's actually really exciting at times, even though there's so much chaos. But it's like what you said about Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan and all of us, like, and how you're like in this journey of figuring out, you know, your unique signature. And that's what it is. We all have our own unique medicine. And I don't feel that there is one truth. You know, we live in a multi-dimensional reality and we're multi-dimensional beings. And it's just like, you know, from what angle and what perspective. And we're
Yeah.
all here to bring in a perspective of the divine. We're all like these fractals, and then if we put it together, it's like then we can kind of get this bigger picture, right, of the layers, because there's so much that we can't see or understand. And I think the key is to be open. And when we can have like our bodies working online again, we can start to sense. And when we can sense, we can, okay, where is this person speaking from, right? Because the past, it's like we get caught up in like the perception of like, okay, this person speaks very well, they're very eloquent, they're charming, they have money, they have influence, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, they must know, they must have integrity, they must be in the heart. And but if you can't feel, but if you tune in, okay, where are they speaking from, what's the energy, then you can start to see. And that's how we can kind of navigate and see that so many of us like have so much to offer, but it's like different perspectives. And it's like, okay, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if this doesn't resonate now, maybe when you hit a new level, it will. You'll be able to integrate it.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like you're only as good as the knowledge you hold and the perception you have of reality. You know, because you can be told loads of things. You can, and I think that can also be dangerous if someone gets to, you know, bullshit is the first thing that most people say, you know, but then really if it isn't the answer they're looking for, the answer they can understand, then it's not their answer at all. You know, that can be real tricky, I think, with times. No, it's great talking to you. The other thing I wanted to talk about as well is the power of sound. Is sound something you work with? Obviously, we are, you know, we pick up on frequencies and tube, but what exactly do you work with sound?
So yeah, well, light language is one of the things that has to do with sound. And recently more I've been working on like toning and tuning. So working with a lot of vibrations and a lot of sound just allows you to start to recalibrate your body. Like our own frequencies, our own vibration is very important for us. Like it's just all coming back to us connecting to our body, reestablishing our connection with our sexual energy in a pure way again, and realizing that it's more than just the genitals, and it's this life force energy that you can raise, you can expand, you can use to pull in and create. And sound just magnifies that, because, you know, everything, like the universe, right, has its own like vibration.
Yeah.
So I work with sound a lot for myself to tune my body, to purge. Right now I'm in the process where my Kundalini is now going to my throat. So I've finally have like broken through past my heart. There's been so much there. So now my Kundalini is getting to my throat. When I trans channel, I can go through all of my channels, but it's only in a channeling state. But now, you know, I'm the embodiment part of it is now that my throat is starting to actually come online. So I'm doing a lot of purging. So I'm using a lot of sound to also stabilize my like vagus nerve, my nervous system, to strengthen it, because it needs to, when we're bringing so much frequencies in, your nervous system needs to also be stabilized so it can sustain. So sound is a good way to also strengthen your nervous system, to soothe you.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I use sound in my healing work. Like when I work with people's energies, I use the light language. I use sound to move their energy and awaken their Kundalini. So
How do
sound is powerful.
how do you tell what area you're in? I mean, the throat is obviously like rhythm, creativity. It's good we're talking today then. But
Yeah, yeah. I think it's because see now I'm more ready because I don't think before I was ready. I still had a little bit.
you're doing
My
great,
throat
don't
was
worry. Yeah,
my
yeah.
throat wasn't ready.
How do you know, like that's something a friend of mine once said, Prince, big up Prince by the way, but he said, I said, how do you tell? He's like, you're in your throat, like your expression, you're talking, you're trying to, express all your creativity. Like that's where you are. That's where you're going to be for a while until you level up to sort of I know. But how do you? Is it a feeling and intuition, or is there a way of you actually testing that?
Testing if you're in like if your Kundalini is in your throat.
Yeah, like where, you know what I mean? How do you
Well,
know yourself where you're at?
well, for me, I know where I'm at because once your Kundalini awakens, you start to build a relationship with it. So you start to get more in tune with the body. So because of the vibrations too, I'm gonna start putting videos out where I'm gonna show like when my body completely trans into like really high vibration. Every body part has a different signature. So like when my energy is in my sacral, I just posted like a silly video on TikTok dancing to music, but the energy will like literally vibrate my whole pelvis like this. And then when it's moving up, when it's moving into the heart, it'll do these movements, but really, really fast. And so I can feel it now because I've been purging that it's going into my throat. So I've been basically having more activations. Like I've been bringing in different sounds that I haven't been able to access before.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in like higher pitches so that's how I know because once you really start to experience this Kundalini energy, it's a very physical and physiological process. So you literally can notice it from the way the energy moves in your body to what happens. And once it starts reaching the throat, you start to purge, your vocal cords start to change. So yeah, it's a very interesting process because literally your body starts to change. Like I feel like my body has changed. I feel like I've lost a ton of weight, not that I've intended to, but just because of the Kundalini energy. I fast most of the days. If I have too much energy running through me, I can't really eat a lot. I find if I eat,
Yeah, I fast as
some,
well.
yeah, and I'm not even trying to fast. It's just that energetically, I can't. My
Don't need to
body's
eat
not
that
asking for
much.
food. Nope.
Break fast.
Yeah, break fast.
Yeah, it's so true. So what with your past lives, is that something a memory you can really sort of go through? Like, do you remember a lot of what happened or how it is? How you came into this life? Has it sort of been a memory that's sort of sitting there with you?
For me personally, no. That I've gotten glimpses of certain things, but for me, more of past lives have been like clearings that I've received. Like for example, my twin, that's his specialty. He's able to tap into people's past life and clear them. When he's worked on me, and then my energy is activated, I've gotten flashes. Like there was one time he was working on me and my Kundalini went crazy and I was like literally purging. I was in a lot of pain and there was all this sacral stuff. And I did start getting flashes. I remember seeing like two priests and a cross, and I started getting pieces. And then he started bringing information in of that past life. And then I was able to see it. But not like there's some people who really do have access to a lot of their past lives. I've had clients I had a client that I worked with, and the first thing I did was bring Sean to clear her past life. And without knowing, an Atlantis life came up for clearing. But without us knowing, she actually had been having visions. Like she had actual memories of certain of a specific time where like everybody was drowning and she was the last one there, but we didn't know it. And as we start going through her past life, I mean, she starts crying. And she had said that she had these flashes that she couldn't like let go of, and it was haunting her. And once we cleared that past life, it shifted a lot for her. and she stopped having all those flashes. But there's a lot of people who are still attached from the work that we've done to past lives, and we've seen patterns, because this is all, we're also learning a lot with this energy. We're like almost like little scientists, kind of just taking notes and being like finding the patterns.
Yeah.
So we're noticing that certain people, when we're clearing out past lives, because I'll do the energy work for the past lives and then he'll bring in the past life information, is that a lot of times we're recreating. Like people will start to see similarities in this life of patterns and behaviors and thoughts and situations that they're doing or attracting that have to do exactly with something from a past life.
Yeah, it's mad. I love it. Well, there's a final question I ask everyone, and that is, what is reality to you?
Reality to me is imagination, because we don't really see reality as reality is. We see reality as we are, because like I mentioned throughout this whole chat, our bodies are not yet equipped to be able to process all of the information that there is. There's so much going on in our reality that we can't see, which is hence why we take medicine. We can tap into more. So to me, reality is imagination, because whatever we're imagining is what we're tapping into. There's infinite levels of reality.
Yeah, it's good. It's a game.
It's a game.
And have you got
It's
any?
an energy game.
Yeah, it is. No, it's funny you said we're like little scientists, trying to work it out in a sense, because it's like, there was a TikTok a girl said once, it kind of resonated with me. It's like God creates, and whoever God is, but she said God creates and science catches up.
Yes.
It's true in that sense.
It's
But
true.
is there anything you want to shout out? Anything you've got? I'll leave all links below and everything else, but anything you've got sort of coming up soon? This will be out after May, so anything you've got going on?
Yeah. Well, for anybody who is experiencing, there's a lot of people that are experiencing Kundalini awakenings and don't know what's going on with them, can be very overwhelmed, and you need support, or just going on your awakening journey as what I call a starseed, connected to like a lot of these galactic frequencies. I do have a monthly membership to support just anybody going through an awakening. So we do a lot of healings, clearings in there, activations, trainings. So that's something that we have all year, and it's a membership, and we're building a community of other beings who are going through a lot of metaphysical experiences to be able to share, so you don't feel alone. There's a lot of people that are feeling really alone in the things that they're going through. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Anything else is on my website, and I guess I just want to say to just keep your faith alive, and just keep dropping into the heart. And no matter what is going on in the world, know that all of the chaos, and if you're focusing and seeing the destruction that is happening in the world, it is part of a greater plan, and it's evolution. We have to destroy things in order to transform it, and we are in the middle of becoming a new species, and really returning back to our true essence. So we are in very exciting times, and there is going to be a lot of emotions and a lot of turmoil that's going to come up. We have a lot of energies hitting the planet. So just look for support and find others, because you're not alone. We're really not alone. And there's always help, and you're always guided.
Yeah, brilliant. Amazing. It's been a pleasure having you to the shed via Zoom. I'm glad we got the technicalities sorted, and it sounds really good. Sometimes people come on and they just use a little bad mic, and it's like, come on, people gotta listen.
Did it do good? I was gonna put this one, but then I was like, see, I had this one, but
no, it's good. It's good. It sounds good. All right. Well, thank you. I'll cut the recording anyway, but yeah, have a good listen, everyone. Cheers.